Well, it looks like Boss gave us an early Christmas present. This is December of 2023, and Boss have done an update to a couple of different loopers to version 1.3. Now, this update is not just for the RC600, it's actually for the 505 Mark II, the RC500, and the RC5. So if you've got any of those loopers, rejoice! You've got a new update. Now, the update to all the loopers is actually the way that the audio is calculated for the BPM. The tempo calculation method has changed when recording with no time reference, aka when you've got the rhythm off. So now in version 1.3, when the first track is recorded, the tempo is calculated and adjusted based on the memory's current tempo settings. This is to provide a more accurate tempo and measure calculation, eliminating unintentional half-time and double-time results. This is meant to resolve this issue. There's a couple of bug fixes, including an issue where the rhythm pattern assigned for a specific target may not work properly, and an issue where the memory's tempo is not set correctly when importing WAVs from the Boss Tone Studio. There's also several fixes that can also help for freezing and also system error messages. Now that's a big one across the board, and these updates are for the 5, the 500, the 600, and the 505 Mark II. Now to find out which version that you're on, you normally hold the menu button whilst powering up, either plugging in on the RC500 or turning on the RC600, and it'll tell you the version. So you can figure out very quickly what you're on, and you can update to version 1.3 with the link that's underneath here. Now just before you go, a little announcement, where I've actually got an RC600 full course, and I've just announced the RC500 course. I'm building it at the moment, but it's not ready yet. But while it's not ready, you get a 15% discount. So if you've got an RC600, or you're looking at an RC500, or you've already got an RC500 and you want to learn more about it, then have a look at my course links that are in the description box as well, because once the RC500 course comes out, that discount is going to disappear. Now, for those of you who've got an RC505 Mark II or an RC600, there's a couple of new features that have been added, as well as all the bug fixes I've just explained. One of the newly added functions is colors and being able to change what each thing does per color. What I mean by that is being able to change the LED for the loop status. So normally red is record, and then yellow is overdub, and green is play. White normally has something on it, and blue is blank. So you can change them, you can have them to whatever you want. For me, I don't know if I'm going to do this, because in my head for years I've always had red is record, yellow is overdub, green is play. But if you want to, you can change it, and you can even turn them off. So once you've updated it to do this on the RC600, for example, you press menu, go all the way to the end to setup, and then what you can do is you can go across, and as you go across, you'll see two new pages. The first page is record, play, and overdub. Now the defaults are red, green, and amber, or yellow. And the next page is stop and blank. So if it's stopped, it's white, and if it's blank, it's blue. But you may want to have, if it's blank, just have it switched off, or a different color, maybe purple. This is also shown in the new parameter guide, which is the version 1.3 parameter guide. And you can do this on both the RC600 and the RC505 Mark II. The other added feature is a pretty good one, which is to do with the mixer. When you go into the 600 or the 505, you have to go into loop, and you have to go into the track, and then inside there, you can change the level of that specific loop or track. Now you've got access to that on the main mixer. So if you just press enter, you'll go into the mixer, go across a couple, and you'll start to see track 1 to 6 on the 600 and track 1 to 5 on the 500, and you can adjust it there. It makes more sense to have those track levels on the mixer screen. Now the tempo calculation I spoke to you about before has actually been changed on all of them, so therefore they've all got the same kind of calculation. So this update is across the board, whether it's on the 5, the 500, the 505 Mark II, or the 600. Again, to eliminate unintentional half-time or double-time results when you're recording a loop. But the additional thing with the flagship loopers, the 505 Mark II and the 600, is one of the effects has changed just slightly, which is the distortion. The vocal distortion, or vocal DIST, now works in a stereo operation. Now with the 505 Mark II and the 600, there's a couple more bugs that were fixed that are specific to those two loopers. Starting with an issue with the input effects or the track effects not displaying properly on the screen. I've seen some people mention this in the RC600 Facebook group. I personally haven't seen this myself because I don't use that screen status, but that has now been fixed. There's also an issue with the effects name type when you're using it as an assign. That's been fixed as well. And a really strange bug where the memories would unintentionally swap or switch halfway through a performance. Again, haven't had the displeasure of that one, but it has been fixed for those who have. There's a couple of other fixes, including ones for speed change at loop end, incorrect recordings with loop sync and immediate, where the all start stop indicator wouldn't work properly if it was set to immediate with loop sync on, and also a nice little fix for a couple of the effects, the LPF, the BPF, and the HPF. There was a slight bug with those three effects where they could drop their signal input, even though you haven't told it to. So that has been fixed as well. Now, my recommendation for this is to back up everything you've got on the board before you update it. Now, I know some of you might be rolling your eyes at that, but you need to do this so you don't lose your settings, you don't lose your loops, you don't lose your audio stuff whilst you're updating the board in case something goes wrong. And Boss have updated all the parameter guides. So if you are using the parameter guide, go and get the new version, version 1.3. So you're up to date with your own looper. Now underneath this video is the direct link to go and get version 1.3 for whichever looper you've got, the 600, the 500, the 505 Mark II, or the RC5. And if you need to know how to update your loopers, I've got two videos here that you can go through, the RC600 and the RC500.